Alright guys, it's been a while since I showed this one on the channel, but I finally have the parts to put it back together. This is my Bissell Power Force bagged 71Y7. Wait. I think it's 71Y7. There are some minor issues with this machine. I used it when one of these motor mounts was out, so the belt shaft completely went through the plastic here, but it doesn't really affect anything. Obviously, it's got minor, the average scratches and everything on it. The reason it's been out of commission for a while is I stole the motor mounts off of this to put on, or one of them went onto my clean view, my original clean view, and then the other one I just lost. So, yeah, and then I have a parts machine. It's a 6583. Not my good 6583, but I had another one and it was a parts machine. It had a base plate that was in better condition than the one that was on this. It had a better brush roll shroud than the one that was on this. This hose isn't even for this. It's for, I'm going to cut this to fit on my MV22 for a lower hose. This was on my 6583, my parts machine. And I was going to put it on my good 6583 because that one's missing the adjustment wheels. And then I realized that people had a screw going into it right there. You can see how it's all chewed up. I might try and continue with the theme, but use a nicer screw. They had like a gnarly screw in there. I'm going to use a nicer screw, and this should work in my other 6583. And then these are the adjustment wheels for this. They didn't clean up too well, but they're good enough. And this brush rolls from that parts 6583. I cannot for the life of me get these end caps off. You can see how badly I chewed them up just from trying to do that. And this brush roll doesn't sound great, but it's better than the brush roll that was originally in this, and that brush roll's in my clean view original now. This did have a bag in it. I just threw it away because I'm just gonna get new bags. There's like a stress mark right here. I don't really know what that's all about. This is still pretty clean from when I had on my last channel, the Little Brother channel, when I had refurbished it back then. But it's mostly just collected dust since then. It hasn't really gotten any worse than it was. It's just got a layer of dust on it. And we'll see, but I might end up stealing the cord off of that 6583 as well, because the cord on this one is pretty chewed up. But I might just patch up this cord because I like these plugs more. So first things first, we're just going to start taking screws out. I could just toss all these parts on and it would be done, but I would like to actually thoroughly clean it and make it look nice again. Otherwise, there's no point in putting it in my collection. You can see this hose, still pretty dirty. That's one thing I didn't clean back when I refurbed this. But usually when you clean a machine, you don't want to leave the hose dirty because then all the dirt that was in the hose will go into the rest of the machine. Which that's only really an issue with bagless machines. Like when I thoroughly clean my Whirlwind, I wash out the hose too so that the dust residual in the hose doesn't go into my clean bin right away when I just run it for a video or something. See, there's a lot of just random stress marks on this machine for whatever reason. If I could get... I'd like to get this out. Okay. I can clean up in there. Probably put some grease on this as well. We're gonna need to sand down that shaft. It's pretty bad. Which, that I did sand down when I last cleaned this, but it's been in the basement, so it's kind of reaccumulated. I'm gonna wash this hose too, and whatever one turns out nicer condition and clean, whatever nicer one will go on this, and then the worst one I'll cut up to fit on the MV22, which the only reason I want to do that is because this is a black hose, and those clear hoses seem to be more flexible. And I think it'll work better until I get the actual proper lower hose for this. So, this thing was missing the motor mounts, so I stole these motor mounts from the 6583, my parts machine. The release pedal on this thing is fairly new, actually, or 5 years old. But that was one thing that broke on this machine, which is why my grandparents gave it to me. And they bought the model that came right after this one. Or, not right after, there was a couple in between, I believe. But it was it's like just like this, but black. Which I will be getting one of those too. It's literally just like this one, but black. It was the last one before they changed it. That's what they have now. But I'm going to be getting one of those soon too. It's my aunt's old machine that she had before she moved out of her apartment. Well, if I can find my Phillips head screwdriver, that would be great. That'd be great, man. So I barely tightened these screws in here, not even all the way. I know how to be taking them back off again. We are going to tear it down to the motor, although I know it hasn't been run much since I last did it, but I don't think I really took the motor out to clean it. I think I just kind of wiped everything that I could see, which doesn't really help, so. But believe it or not, I've learned a lot since, what was that, a year ago? But yeah, the reason that happened is because I was running this thing, and then I lifted it up while it was running, and the shaft just went right through the plastic right here. Just like that. So yeah, let's disconnect our lower hose. We'll have to see out of these two things what one has better friction. And I'll make sure to grab the one that has better friction, because there's the one from my parts machine, the 6583, and then there's this one, and it's always nice when there's a good amount of friction there, so depending on what one's better, we'll have to swap that out. So pop that right on out. You already see this one's already straightened out because of how nice and flexible it is. That one's been washed though, this one's all stiff, and you can see where the dirt's been pelleting it for all these years. You can see the darker color inside of there. You can see it's been clogged a few times, I'm sure. Nice little spider web right there. And I don't even think there's a filter in here. No, so I'll have to buy one of those. A big dust in here. See if I can pop this out of here. Yep. Taking this type of stuff off. So we're gonna make a wash pile here. Because these are already clean. I already cleaned these. Make a little wash pile. Well, this will be the clean/wash pile. Whether it's gonna be washed in the sink or some of it will just be wiped down, and then that I'll just need to clean up as best as I can, obviously. There's not much I can do about the crusty bearings, but hopefully after it runs for a while, the bearings will kind of clean themselves up. It kind of just sounds like the grease is hardened up inside of them. So now, this should release from the machine. Go. So here's how that's looking. Not that dirty, because like I said, it was, clean not all that long beforehand. This is back before I knew the trick of greasing these rides. That helps it recline and go into the upright position a lot easier. Carbon brushes are still good. This machine, we'll have to look at the model number, but I think it was made in 2011. So about the same age as the 6583 that I just took all these parts off of. Oh, 54th day of 2010. So, it's not necessarily new. It's made it almost exactly 10 years. A little over 10 years now. People think that their bearings are bad when they hear this. That's actually a good thing. That means your carbon brushes are making contact. This is the way the motor actually spins. But if you spin it the opposite way, you should hear the carbon brushes dragging. That's what you want. That means they're in good condition. And they're still making good contact. And they're worn properly. So, hopefully that relieves some confusion. This screw came out of. You know, for those of you who like to take your machines apart, I know there's, you know, if you're like me and you take a machine apart and sometimes it'll be left over with screws and you're not sure where they go, put screws in. If you can, put screws in where you took them out, and then they won't get lost no matter what. Pop our back door off. There's some sticker residue right there. Look at that. What, about 10 minutes here? And that's with me talking. If I wasn't talking, this would have taken like 3 minutes max. But these things are so easy to tear down and clean. You can see it in here is still clean from when I had cleaned it back then. Best way to clean these is with a paintbrush and a vacuum. With the dry paintbrush, agitate all the dust and have a vacuum running. And just follow the paintbrush, and eventually it looks almost new like this. You can still see, you know, minor dust in all of the really deep crevices, but... So we are going to go ahead and remove our motor housing. Yep, so still pretty clean. You can see how the wires run through, basically identical to my clean view. Sorry, I got something in my eye. This is the same motor that is in my clean view because the motor that's in my clean view came out of a Bissell Power Force Helix 12V1. You can see some dust has reaccumulated. I'm gonna take a picture here. That's another thing. Always helps if you take pictures, and that will help you remember how to see. Yep, you can tell I never took this out. Look at the difference. And that will help you put it back together, and you won't do anything wrong. It'll kind of remind you how to, you know, obviously that's how it was from the factory. That's how it was set in there from the factory. So that's kind of the best way to put it back together. You can put these motor in just about any orientation you want. You can put them in like that, set them in there like that, or all the way like this, and they won't care. It's not going to make a difference, but sometimes things won't go together as smoothly. Give me a second while I remove our terminals. Okay, and I never even knew that this came out like that. That reveals all of this dust in here. So I'm just going to go ahead and let's pop our handle off. This goes on the motor. Forget about that. There's our handle. Okay. Sticker's peeling a little bit. That's okay. At least it still has the sticker. Go ahead and... For those of you who ship vacuum cleaners, for the handle screw, always thread it into the machine a little bit. I'm not going to thread it in too much because I still have to take off this blue piece, but now two little tabs that you gotta pull in. There we go. I threaded in that screw a little bit too much. Here's what we'll do. Just thread it into this blue piece, and then it still won't get lost. Okay. Now we shall take another pig shower. Oh, that's how that works. Okay. Okay. Now these switches, you can simply just push those two tabs in and then it'll come out. First we're going to release our cord. And this simply I actually forget how these even work, but I think just press this. Yep. You just press down on that. This is actually a very nice design. It's kind of nice that they did it like this. Take one more picture just of these switch connections. Okay. Is this gonna come off here one of these days? This one decided it actually wants to latch on properly. That's what's happening. Pencil or something. Now, this section should come right on out. Yep. Be careful with these wires, they're not grade A. There you go. Keep them somewhere where your dog is not going to attack them. My dog never goes in this room. So, yeah. Definitely try and clean this out, not like it really matters. My question is, how did dust even get there? I know a lot of people who think you can get those switches wet, which you honestly can, and you know, it won't really cause too much of a deal, but I don't recommend doing so. Switch here. Say sometimes they can be a sucker punch. Ooh. Okay. I'm sorry, guys. I just got a comment from one of my videos. Oh dear Lord. I'm going to get a different. All right, this switch put up a fight. Let's just say it did not want to come out, but it did, with one of the latches breaking. But that's okay. So now this whole shell, which is something that you're always, you know, not able to really wash. You just kind of have to wipe it as best you can. But in this case, I'm not letting that stop me, and now this can be totally washed. This could honestly stand to be replaced. It's the same age as me. Not quite. But yeah, so this shall clean up nice. Could take that thing off too, but yeah, let's just take it off. The more you can take off, the more things get nice and clean. The only things I'm probably not going to bother washing are the handle and the bag door, because none of those are dirty, and this thing. So that just pops right on out. Give me a second while I relocate some of these screws into their holes. Alright, so I'm going to end this video here. We've got the whole machine completely disassembled and ready to be cleaned.